Thank you, Leora and Pamela, for the invitation. It's nice to be here. It's nice to be back in New York. I'm a transplanted New Yorker living in New Jersey now. And I'm just here to talk about video interview etiquette. And just to let you know, this is kind of a quick presentation. I will make the slides available at the end, no worries. So as a quick presentation, let's just hold off the Q&A until the end. And what's really important about video interview, or the etiquette around it, is, etiquette is not just for you being considerate to the viewers that are watching. It's really part of your image. It's really very important. But let's get right into the program. There are a couple of basic things that you should know. Certainly video interviews, video meetings, because this concept really is the same if you're having a remote meeting, they're here to stay. Just be prepared that there's just going to be a lot more of this. And these aren't new. These aren't 6 months old. They've been around for a couple of years, but what's really happened is the COVID experience, the pandemic, really has just validated remote working and remote meetings a lot more. So really be prepared ahead of time for your video interviews. First of all, make sure that your technology works correctly. And it could be today we're using Zoom, another day you can use GoToMeeting and others as well. If you are not familiar with those programs, maybe find a partner, somebody that can help you with that. And if you don't have one of those accounts, contact the person that arranged the interview and let them know, can we just have a practice session for about 15 minutes the day before? Just make sure it works. It'll go a whole lot smoother. And don't use a mobile phone or a tablet or anything that can kind of wiggle around, because it really makes for a very poor experience for the viewers, your audience on the other side. I've been not in interviews, video interviews, but I've been on business meetings where people are holding their tablet or their phone and the background is moving or their face is moving. It's a little uncomfortable to watch. And certainly, like every interview, be on time. For a video interview, that becomes important because your software, whether it's Zoom or GoToMeeting, any of those, they need a minute or two to connect. So anything within 5 minutes should be good. If you arrive early, you'll be in the waiting room. No worries, you'll be ready to go when your interviewers are. Also part of the basics, mute yourself when not speaking. Now, of course, when you're having a Q&A back and forth, it's not quite as important. But there may be times when your interviewer or your host is really giving you background in the company or background about the position, and you can mute yourself. Just remember that you are, because if there's any accidental background noise from within the house or outside the house, you just want to make sure that doesn't come through. I don't like using those fake digital backgrounds, and I see a few of you are using them. And maybe if you have a green screen, you're really doing it right. But if you look at this young lady, she probably has some highlights in her hair that got mixed up with the backgrounds, and even part of her shoulder got a little mixed up. And if you look closely, she's got no arms. So just the background really created a distraction. So, you're better off using a plain sort of background, a curtain or a plain wall works out a whole lot better. Look at the camera. Don't look at the screen. Our natural inclination is to look at the screen because that's where our audience, we see them. But our audience is really in the camera, which is usually placed a little bit above the screen. You want their experience to be that you're paying attention to them, and that becomes very important. So your camera is your audience. The screen is just a picture of the audience. Also, certainly wear work-appropriate clothing when you're on your video call and your video interview, and absolutely for what's in view of the camera. This is Ron Burgundy from the Anchorman movie. He looks good enough for certainly an interview, but certainly off camera you can be a little bit more casual if you'd like. For full disclosure, I've got my button-down shirt on and I'm wearing gym shorts, and I'm not going to stand up to show you. I've heard that some interviewers ask you to stand up. If you feel more comfortable wearing the full business outfit, that's certainly appropriate. And what is business appropriate? It depends on your audience. It depends on the company that you're interviewing with. Some companies accept business casual, some accept a more formal business attire. You need to understand that for your audience. And certainly pay attention. You certainly don't want to be in the middle of your video interview or any conference and all of a sudden start looking at your phone because it's vibrating. Put that aside, put it in another room if you have to. Really pay attention to the presentation that's going on and the discussion that's going on in the interview. Now let's talk about lighting. And you know, you're going to start looking at each other's pictures as we're going through this to see who's good and who's not. Don't judge other people just yet. This is really a lesson for ourselves. But certainly don't light from behind. Because when you light from behind and when you light from just one side, you begin to wash out a little bit, or you look like a silhouette. It just washes out part of your image. It's a poor presentation of yourself. So make sure that you light instead from a little above and in front. And actually, if you can't do in front, a little on the side. So actually, in my lighting, can't be in front with the way my home office is set up. I have two lights on either side projecting on me, and it seems to be good enough. So, but you want to get rid of shadows. You want to get rid of the silhouette look. Also, make sure you frame your camera properly. And this is different from camera location, which we'll talk about. Remember Where's Waldo? This guy probably has set up his laptop, I'm assuming, so that he leaned the panel just right so he could see the audience perfectly. But what he's not paying attention to, the camera on top is looking a little bit high, so we're not seeing the bottom half of his head and face. This woman's kind of doing the opposite, probably positioned her laptop to be just right for her, and we're losing the top half a third of her face and head. And it's really a distraction to others. You really want good camera position. Good camera position really makes for a very pleasant experience. And the experience is not yours. The experience is the people that you're talking with. That's what becomes important. So separate from camera, framing the camera, is camera location. Where should you put your camera? Well, don't place the camera above you, or don't place it to one side. Now, probably what this guy is doing is he probably has two monitors side by side. His camera looks like it's on the left side, the left monitor, and he's watching the audience on the right side. So he's actually doing two things. He's looking at the audience, not the camera, and he's got the camera location wrong. So we only see him looking away from us. We see the left side of his face. Don't place the camera below you. It really creates a very poor impression also. We're looking up at your ceiling. Probably if you're a nose doctor, it works well. You can look up this lady's nose. But for the most part, don't place it below you either. Really a better experience. Think of Goldilocks and the Three Bears. It's got to be just right. And eye level is really just right. Because it's how we see you. It's how your audience sees you. And that's the impression that you really want to make. And also your work location becomes very important. You certainly want to be in a very quiet place. And I don't know if anyone recognizes this picture. It was actually an interview a couple of months ago on BBC television. This fellow was being interviewed on television, and there were kids, and that's his wife running in to grab the kid and the dog out of the room. You can find it on YouTube. So you want to make sure you're in a quiet place where you won't be distracted, because that will also create a bad impression. Don't have a messy background. So this guy's dressed the part. He looks perfectly fine. I understand people keep a home office in their bedroom, and that's fine. But he doesn't make his bed. His clothing is strewn all over the place. It's really kind of very messy. I had worked for a company a number of years ago. It was actually a great location. It was in South Ferry downtown. But one of the managers said, a messy desk is the sign of a messy mind. He always hated us having messy desks. So you never know who's interviewing you. They may say, well, this guy's resume is good, but he just doesn't seem very well organized. So you have to be very careful. So do have a pleasant background. Usually a simple background is best. This guy's using a curtain, and that works out very well also. And who knows, maybe behind this curtain, like behind my curtain over here, there's exercise equipment. No one else needs to know about it. Of course, you know about it now. So as we sum up, video meetings and interviews, they're here to stay. It's going to be our reality through the end of our careers. I'm absolutely certain of that. So make sure you pay attention to the basic requirements that I listed a couple of slides ago. Ensure that you have the proper lighting so that you're not either washed out or look like a silhouette. Frame and position your camera properly so it does look like you are looking at the audience and the audience can see you clearly, and certainly have a professional looking and a quiet work location. So if you want to find this slide deck, this is my website, and it's princetontechadvisors.com. It's my company website, Princeton Tech Advisors. The next slide also has more information for contact as we take Q&A. You'll see there's a link for workshops, and on the workshops page, recently offered programs. A whole list of programs that I do are there. The one at top is this one for FENG, so you can go get that. Princeton Tech Advisors, Workshops, Recently Offered Programs. All right. And I guess it's time for questions. So there's my contact information. And I will open the chat, or if anyone else is looking at that, one of the other hosts, that's helpful too.
I have a question for you, David.
Sure.
Steve, our landing member, was standing when he was speaking to us. So what is your opinion on standing or sitting in an interview? I've seen different sort of modalities on interviewing.
Yeah, so I don't think there's a problem at all about standing, but what Steve also did was he was looking down at his computer. So again, I don't think it's as good looking up. We saw kind of the ceiling tiles in his room or office. But standing is fine if that's what makes you comfortable. There are a lot of people that do have elevated desks so they can stand as they work. If that's what makes you comfortable, fine. I think it's fine.
Great, thank you.